Hi, David W. Coleman here. I'm here to tell you why I didn't attend the Robert E. Lee parade. No, sorry, I didn't. I've been away from Arkansas for some time, so imagine my personal quandary upon moving back to Little Rock and discovering the state had enacted a parallel commemoration for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert E. Lee, the Confederate general. That's right. On the morning of January 19th, MLK Day, I awakened confused as to my itinerary. What would I do that day? Where should I go and why? Should I go see the Dr. King parade or should I go to the Robert E. Lee parade? King, Lee, Lee, King. God, I pulled my hair out. I just didn't know what to do. As I went through the morning ritual and preparing for the day, I found myself torn between supporting a traitor to America or a patriot to the American way of life. I like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, so I sat down and prepared a list of pros and cons. Here's a few things I came up with. Let me know what you think. General Robert E. Lee was a Confederate general who led the Confederate troops. And guess what, folks? He was a traitor and took up arms against the United States of America. In today's vernacular, Robert E. Lee would be considered, that's right, you said it, a terrorist. The Civil War was not about some romantic notion of states' rights, as some revisionist segregationists like to suggest. The war was fought to maintain the Southern way of life, specifically slavery. It was about money, and slavery was big money. It was slavery, free labor, that allowed the South to grow, prosper, and become the evil and wretched historical swamp that history details. Lee was a slave owner and received his first lot of human slaves, 63 to be precise, from his father-in-law. Good old in-laws, don't you just love them? A man who claims to be so genteel and a gentleman would have never owned another human being, would he? Inquiring minds want to know. Well, guess what else Lee was? Well, General Robert E. Lee, unfortunately, was a rapist. History tells us that female and male slaves were often raped by their owners and their wives, and there is no evidence to suggest that the good old general was any less sadistic and vicious. Lee, unfortunately too, yes, he was a child molester because many of those slaves that he raped were underage. History tells us how often young girls were brutally sexually assaulted by their so-called loving masters and impregnated in order to increase the plantation stock of human chattel, only later to be sold to others equally vicious rapists and child molesters. Yeah, the story goes on. Lee was an adulterer. Oh my God! This Christian way of life, he cheated on his wife. Well, let's just break that down. Now, if he was out in the slave quarters raping young women and he had a wife, doesn't that mean he's an adulterer? Yep, it does, unfortunately. Guess what else General Lee was? A murderer. Not only did Lee order the massacre of hundreds of blacks during the war, but no doubt he had his hand in many other deaths on his own plantation. You think? Now, Lee justified slavery as an evil to the white man and thought kidnapping people from their homeland and their families would benefit them. Now, let's just break that down. Okay, so I live in another country. You come over and you steal me from my family. And you think that benefits me? Huh? Now, how sick is that? But I love me some General Lee. Well, let's just break it down in Lee's own words. Now, I'm channeling my Robert E. Lee right here, so y'all check this out. I think the it being slavery, I think it, however, a greater evil to the white man than to the black man, and while my feelings are strongly enlisted in behalf of the latter, my sympathies are more strong for the former. The blacks are immeasurably better off here than in Africa. Morally, did he just say morally? I think he did. Let's go back. Morally, socially, and physically. The painful discipline, that means the beatings, brandings, and torture that slaves endured during slavery. I'm sorry, I'm channeling Lee. The painful discipline they are undergoing is necessary for their instruction as a race, and I hope will prepare and lead them to better things. You think? In this case, better things would be death. Now, in summary, Lee was an American terrorist, an adulterer, a traitor, a rapist, a child molester, and a murderer. Well, with those qualities, why not designate a day in which we all can celebrate such a great man? Isn't that wonderful? So congratulations, Arkansas and Mississippi and Alabama. Those of you who have decided to immortalize General Robert E. Lee as some great American hero. Newsflash, he wasn't. Not only have you insulted millions of blacks and their ancestors I should say, who suffered undue horror under the peculiar institution of the American slave trade, but you have also once again shown the world your pure, unadulterated bigotry, ignorance, and yes, it's the R word, racism. As a matter of fact, anyone who wishes for the good old days gone by, where human beings were treated worse than animals, just remember your great general and his redeeming qualities: adulterer, rapist, child molester, murderer, traitor, terrorist, and God only knows what else. Well, let me take it back. God knows, but he's probably not with God. I'm sorry. Well, now that I have a better perspective on what General Robert E. Lee stood for, I think it's easy to see why I didn't even attend the parade. Well, did they even have a parade? No? Well, no wonder there was no information about it to be found anywhere on the internet about where it was going to start and where it was going to end. Although, unfortunately, racism and bigotry is still alive and well in America, slavery has been abolished, and I'm sorry to say, no, not. The South will never rise again. For those of you who long for days gone by, I hope each of you had a great MLK Day. I hope you went out and provided service for your fellow man. And for you who are championing Robert E. Lee, I also hope you burn in hell. Oh, by the way, this just in. As of today, apparently, an Arkansas legislator has decided that enough with this stupid Robert E. Lee crap. Please introduce legislation to move Robert E. Lee Day away from the same day as MLK Day. Makes a lot of sense. By the way, gotta give credit what credit is due. It was a Republican. So, see, that just goes to show you that all Republicans are not idiots. Only 95% of them. Y'all have a good day. Bye.